was that? From where am I? Waikanae Beach in New Zealand. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2507. And today's topic is not all family mysteries are dramatic. Some are simply forgotten. And this is when people hear the phrases, people hear phrases family mystery, they imagine dramatic discoveries, secrets buried in the law and buried for centuries. They're going to uncover some family treasure may be discovered. There could be a murder in there that they didn't know about. Yes, you can have a family mystery in that regard. But many family mysteries are much quieter than that. Sometimes no one was hiding anything. The information was simply lost over time. A photograph without names, a story that was never written down, a relative nobody thought to ask, a family Bible that disappeared, a move to another town that nobody remembered. As generations pass, memories fade and details get lost. Questions begin to appear. Who are the people in this photograph? Why did the family move? What happened to a particular relative? Do you remember Uncle John? What happened to him? Where did the family come from? Where did they originate from? How did they get to whatever country you're living in? Were they born and raised in that country? Did they immigrate from another country? Why was this story never talked about? Yeah, often the answers are not hidden. They have simply been forgotten. That's one of the reasons genealogy matters. It helps recover the names, stories, and experiences that might otherwise disappear with time. Every record, photograph, letter, and family story adds another piece to the puzzle. And sometimes solving a family mystery is not about uncovering a secret. It's about remembering something that was almost lost. And when you think of all the story, there it goes again. Do you guys see that? There's like this little bit of smoke that goes across my lens, but my room is completely clear. That's just really weird. Maybe I've got the spirits visiting me, the angels. Maybe it's just the angel waves. I don't know. But they're always welcome here anyway, and always grateful for them. But anyway, back to stories. What are we talking about? I've got to go back here. So sometimes it could be the fact that there's a relative that has just passed, and yet they had the key to a line of the family that you didn't know about. It could. My great aunt did that to me. We sat down with her when we were visiting in New Zealand one time. First time I'd met this great aunt, yet it was my dad's favorite aunt. And I said to my mum and dad as we're driving back to the hotel, I said, have I ever met Auntie Pat before? And mum and dad look back at each other and sort of think about it and then go, no, I don't think you ever have. I was in New Zealand for my 40th birthday. This was almost 20 years ago because I'll be 60 this year. So it was 20 years ago. And they looked at each other and went, no. And I went, huh, how come? Because I knew that was one of my dad's favorite aunts. And I was just sort of like, oh, okay, but I've never met her before. Yet we had such a great time and a great connection. And we now got flickering lights. This is fun. Got the angels and the spirits in the house. Woo-hoo. Fun day. Da, 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 da. Sorry, total sidetrack. And so it was very entertaining because one of the things that she did is that she got out of the car, she walks around the front of the car towards me, sees me, walks around the front of the car, and she stands there, gets all settled on her legs, and she puts her arms out like this, and she goes, see if you fit. And so I'm like walking towards her thinking, okay, she's got her arms this way, I got to go this way. And so we're able to have this great big hug, and it's like, and I will tell you this, that hug that I got from her when I first met her felt like I had come home. It was just one of those very warm, very welcoming, you're part of the family type of hugs. And it was, I'm going to get all choked up on this now. It was a fantastic moment and an incredible feeling. I had never met this woman in my life. I was 40 years old, never met her. She'd been my great aunt for the last 40 years, never met her. And yet the moment we meet, I got this hug that felt like I'd come home and that I'd been welcomed back home into the family. Which was really cool. And so we're standing there talking, and she looks over to where Brad is with Dad and his cousin, and she goes, who's that over there? I go, which one? Well, because she knew my dad, and she knew Wally, and I said the tall blonde one. She goes, yeah. I said that's my husband. She looks and goes, oh, and I said he's American, and her eyes just went. And she's like, American, huh? My aunt was probably in her 70s at the time, late 70s, early 80s, somewhere around that age. She could not take her eyes off my husband the entire night. He was sitting at the head of the table. He was sitting at one end of the table. I was on his right. Auntie Pat was on his left. My cousin, Dad's first cousin Linda, my first cousin once removed, Linda was sitting next to her, making sure that she was okay. Do you want some mashed potatoes, Auntie Pat? And she pats Brad's hand and goes, please make sure that Brad, she goes, make sure Brad gets some first. She made sure whenever food came her way, she wanted to skip her, make sure Brad got his first, and then go back and fill up her plate. And she's just sitting there just making these Google eyes at my husband all night. It was hilarious. And we managed to keep her entertained afterwards because we sat down with her with a digital recorder and just started asking questions. And it wasn't, can you tell me about the time that this happened? What do you recall about this? We're just starting those gentle questions that would trigger the memories and things. And she's sitting there and she's got her eyes fixed on the digital recorder. And she says, that red light's bothering me. Can you turn it off? I went, sure. So I picked it up. I made like I was turning it off. I put it down so it was face down on the table so she couldn't see the red light, but it was still recording. And then as soon as that happened, she just blossomed open and started giving me all this family stories and stuff and information and everything else. And then once we got back to the States, we kept in contact via Facebook messaging. And one of the last messages she sent to me, excuse me, one of the last messages she sent to me, she says, I've just been talking with our cousins in Ireland. And I'm like, what cousins in Ireland? Where are they? How are they connected to us? We knew we have some Irish roots. My second great grandmother was born in the police barracks in Dublin, Ireland. Her mother, we're not sure, Elizabeth Brodie, we're not sure if she was Scottish or Irish. We're still trying to figure that out. But her father, Robert Gordon, was very much born and raised in Ireland. So that's where that's where the Irish roots start, that we know of started. I think there's some people on my mum's side of the family that may have been Irish as well. And I know there's some people on my dad's side of the family that were Scottish. So I've got Scottish and Irish on both sides of the family. The Scottish is stronger on my mum's side. The Irish is stronger on my dad's side. And then we mix in there a little bit of Welsh, a little bit of English, a little bit of Cornish, and you got the package. And so that kind of started we've got cousins in Ireland. I need to look into this further. So we're still trying to find some more records and things to get that going. And it's just, just these little clues, but she never answered my question about the ancestors or the cousins in Ireland and how they were related to it. She said, I'll tell you more about that later. And she never got the chance to do it. She passed away before I got the answers to those questions. So she was one of those people that would drip feed you information and then step back and let you mull on that and come back to ask her questions again. And then she'd decide whether or not she wanted to answer them. So she was a lot of fun to talk with. Absolutely loved that woman. And I can't believe I only got to meet her once in my life, but absolutely gem of a woman. And I kind of wish I had more time to sit down with her and talk with her, because she was a wealth of information and she was just verbally blah, 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 blah. As soon as that recorder was turned over and she couldn't see that red light, she thought it was off and she just blah, 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 blah. Because beforehand it was a little stilted and she kept staring at the red light, which I think was disturbing her. So by turning it over, making out I was turning it off and turning it over, I got her to just blossom open. And she just started telling stories. But she was sitting between Brad and I. She insisted on sitting with Brad sitting on one side of her and me sitting on the other side of her. Yes. So, but she was in awe of my husband. And it was his first time meeting her as well. But absolutely love that woman. She was a gem. And I've got a lot of great aunts and uncles that would be happy to sit down and tell me stories about family and family history if I had the chance just to sit down and ask them. And over the years, when I visited with them, they did tell stories and stuff. At the time, I didn't know the importance of recording. I was just a young kid or a teenager at the time. And then years later, as they got older and stuff, I still never thought to record them. In those days with the recorders, we didn't have the little digital recorders we have today. We had the little recorders that had tapes in them. I still have some tapes, and I still have the recorder that plays them. So I can still go back and do those notes and stuff. But we didn't have the digital recorders at that point. And then the only other way that we could have recorded it, had I thought about it, if I didn't get the little dictation ones, was I had a cassette recorder Yes, back in the days of cassette recorders. And I could have recorded on those, but I didn't have a microphone for my cassette recorder, so that didn't happen either. But I never thought to record these things. I never thought to sit down with something taping and recording what was being said. And, you'll learn as you go along. If you're going to be talking with somebody about family stuff and all of that, ask them if you can record it, and then record it. Use your phone. Most phones have a voice memo thingy on it now, and the microphones are really good on the phones that you don't need external microphones. And you just sit it between the two of you with it face down so they can't see the little bars going across the little screen and everything else. I'll turn the screen off so they can't see what's happening on the phone. In fact, I always put it down because I also have it on the do not disturb, and I put it down so they can't see if any messages pop up on the screen as well. They're just looking at the back of my phone, but the microphone's pointed towards them. And that makes it very easy to record them. So there's different ways, but think about some of the questions that you have. If you've got photographs, you need to know who's in them, who's the best person that can tell you who's in those photographs. And like I still kick myself to this day. There was a week when we were out in LA one time, and that whole week, my mother-in-law and I sat on the floor, she sat on a chair, and she had this low cabinet that was about 6 to 8 feet in length. It was chock full of photographs, and we went through those photographs and we were putting them into piles. One pile for each of her sons, for her 4 sons with their photographs. And then there was the Salwine photographs, there were the Brahms photographs. And we just went through all these photographs, and I had an archival safe pencil. Oh, I've got archival safe pencils with me again. Yes. Oh, I got to go out to the garage and unpack a box. Oh, not unpack a box, unwrap a set of drawers. But now I know that I have them with me. I don't have to go looking for them. I now have, I think, about 2 or 3 boxes of them. Yes. Which means I can start going through my grandmother's photographs again and start writing stuff on the back. So archival safe pencils, they're usually blue. And we would write on the back who was in the photo, when it was taken, and where it was taken. Those 3 details we would write on the back of the photographs. If there were any other details that she had, I could put a quick note on there. But to this day, I still kick myself. I did not have a digital recorder with me. I did not even know we were going to be doing this. And this is before you were able to record on your cell phone, before smartphones came out. And I'm just still kicking myself to this day that I didn't have some way to record the conversations that we had that day. Every day that week, it was probably for a couple of hours, we would sit there going 2 to 3 hours and just go through all these photographs. And we had our little piles set up and everything else. And I'm sitting there writing on the back of all these photographs. And that was, and she'd stop and tell stories about, like, she'd see a photograph and go, oh, I remember this is, and she'd go blah, 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 into a story. And then she'd give me the photograph, and I would have to go, okay, who's in the photograph? Where was it taken? When was it taken? And then she'd go off on another tangent again and we'd write some notes down on there. But it was one of the most precious times I had with her. And I still kick myself to this day that we didn't record any of those sessions. Yeah. If I know, and I probably should have gone out with some, after that, I learned the lesson to always carry a digital recorder with me whenever we went out to LA to visit my mother-in-law, because there would be times that we'd be sitting there. There was one time we were sitting in her bedroom on her bed while she's going through these documents that she had from the Brahms side of the family, which included birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates from the Ukraine, from Lithuania, from Russia, all in those countries' languages, and all of them had translations with them. Had the transcripts written in them, all written in English. And she would take me through. She had this drawer in her dresser or a box in her room or something. I can't remember which. And like she'd come across newspaper articles that she had saved and go, oh, this is da-da-da-da, and recorded that entire session. Yes. Because I had my recorder with me that I had learned from the last visit. Have a recorder with me at all times. And I didn't even think at the time to, next when we're out, let's go get me a recorder. Didn't even think to do that. So now if I go visiting any relatives or anything, I've got my phone on me. So if I need to record anything, I can take it out, put the recording thing on, flip it upside down on the table, and just leave it there on the table and let it do its thing. So lessons learned. So some family mysteries are not dramatic. They're not spy stories. They're not treasure hunts. They're not deep, dark secrets or any of that sort of stuff, or murder stories or kidnapping stories or war stories or anything like that. It's just simple everyday stuff that may have been forgotten, like a photograph. Who are the people that were in the photograph? because that person's no longer around to tell us, is there somebody around that can still tell us who's in the photograph? So your task for today is to find out which relatives you still have alive that are within, maybe a phone call away, maybe a drive away, or in the same town as you, that you can go and ask some questions. Maybe you got some photographs and you need somebody that can tell you who's in the photographs. Dig those out and go see if you can find somebody who can talk to you about the photographs. And make sure you get an archival pencil so you can write on the back who's in the picture, when it was taken, and where it was taken. At least get those basics down on the back of photographs. And with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. And we'll be back here tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Pacific. It's Sunday. I have lunch with my parents on Sunday. And 1 o'clock my time is too soon to get back. So I'll be back at 2, which is 5 p.m. 7 p.m.